37 drivers started an IndyCar race this past year. Let's have a look at them. For the fifth year, former Indianapolis 500 winner and series champion Buddy Lazier returned with his family's team for the Indianapolis 500. For the first time since the operation started, Lazier qualified ahead of the last row. In the race, Lazier seemed to maintain pace with the other cars. However, he lost laps due to running out of fuel and then crashed. I do think that if the team practiced more and even affiliated themselves with another team, they could be more competitive. Tristan Vaudier served as Sebastian Bourdais' replacement at Texas. I will admit that I was not expecting much from him in the race. However, he started fifth and led 15 laps, only to get taken out in a large crash through no fault of his own. Unfortunately, he did not get another chance in IndyCar for the rest of the year, partially due to his prior sports car commitments. But I do believe that if he were to return to the series full-time, he would be competitive. James Davison became the sudden replacement for Sebastian Bourdais when Bourdais was injured during qualifying for the Indianapolis 500. Despite limited seat time and starting from last place, Davison came through the field and remained in hunt for the victory until being collected in a late race crash. While I doubt we will see him as a full-time driver next year, I do think that he could be a contender if he only drove at Indianapolis. Compared to previous years, Sage Karam was relatively quiet. Once again, he drove at the Indianapolis 500 for Dreyer and Reinbold Kingdom Racing. He started 21st and finished 28th due to battery issues after 125 laps. Currently, Karam races primarily in IMSA, and I think he could return to IndyCar if he wanted, as he gets more experience and establishes himself in IMSA. Six-time Indy Lights winner Zach Veach started a pair of races this past season. He first served as an injury replacement for J.R. Hildebrand at Barber, starting and finishing 19th despite spinning out at one point. He then drove at Indianapolis as a third driver for A.J. Foyt Enterprises. However, he finished 26th due to alternator issues. Next year, he will drive for Andretti Autosport in the first year of a 3-year deal. Hopefully, for his sake, his speed from Indy Lights can come through. Jay Howard drove an IndyCar for the first time since 2011 at Indianapolis this past year. I think his time out of the car really showed, as he got high in turn 1 and caused Scott Dixon to flip spectacularly as he moved down the track. Afterwards, he blamed Ryan Hunter-Reay in an interview, although he did later apologize. Perhaps Howard could do more racing in any series to improve himself if he ever returns to IndyCar. Indy Lights winning driver Zachary Clayman DeMello drove in the season finale at Sonoma. He did not have much of a chance to show anything as he received damage to his car in the first lap, although he did qualify 21st out of 22 cars in the first place. Maybe if he can get more experience, he could be somebody to look out for. Pippa Mann was once again the only woman to compete in IndyCar this year, only competing in the Indianapolis 500. She finished in 17th place, 1 lap down. I have noticed that her speeds seem to be inconsistent, both during qualifying and races. I think that she could become more consistent if she could find a setup for cars that would suit her better. Fernando Alonso had to be the most surprising driver to appear in an IndyCar race this year, competing in the Indianapolis 500. The two-time Formula One world champion qualified 5th and was frequently seen at the front of the field. Unfortunately, an engine failure ended his race 21 laps early. While Alonso will not be back in 2018 due to McLaren switching Formula One engines from Honda to Renault, I do not think we have seen the last of Alonso in IndyCar. Two-time Indy Lights runner-up Jack Harvey first appeared at Indianapolis for Michael Shank Racing, with heavy support from Andretti Autosport no less. However, a forgettable race for him ended with a crash after 65 laps. Afterwards, he criticized the team. Harvey then drove for Schmidt-Peterson Motorsports for the final 2 races, finishing 14th at Watkins Glen and 18th at Sonoma. If Harvey comes back in 2018, he will have to make some improvements. Journeyman driver Oriol Servia once again returned for 3 races. He put in a very good run at Indianapolis, as he was running in the top 10 late in the race, but contact with James Davison resulted in a multi-car crash. With Servia's experience in testing the new Dallara body kit and his reputation as a regular finisher, I can easily see Servia back with somebody for at least the 500. Sebastian Saavedra returned to IndyCar in 2017. In 4 starts, Saavedra finished on the lead lap 3 times, getting a best finish of 11th at Toronto and Gateway. While his only retirement was a very light crash at Pocono, he is perhaps beginning to remove his earlier stigma as a crasher and can become a regular finisher. Former Formula One driver Esteban Gutierrez was the most frequent replacement driver for Sebastian Bourdais, starting 7 races. However, he failed to finish better than 13th at Iowa. Additionally, he never really seemed to show any speed, especially when compared to the other 3 drivers who spent time in the car. Despite this, I do believe that Gutierrez was starting to somewhat improve prior to Bourdais' return. Juan Pablo Montoya is now semi-retired, from IndyCar that is, as he will be one of Team Penske's IMSA drivers. This year, he drove in both Indianapolis races, finishing in the top 10 at each race. While Montoya's time as a full-time IndyCar driver seems to be over, there is no reason for me to believe that he would not be competitive if he only competed at Indianapolis. Gabby Chavez and the new Harding Racing team were a pleasant surprise in 2017. Competing in the 3 superspeedway races, Chavez finished in the top 10 twice, including a 5th at Texas. The two will return full-time in 2018. While I expect them to have some struggles at some tracks, as they are a single-car team going to certain tracks for the first time, I could still see them having good moments once again. 2017 was a mixed bag for Ed Carpenter. In his ovals only season, Carpenter only finished in the top 10 at Phoenix with a 7th, in a race that only had 13 finishers, no less. However, Carpenter also qualified into the top 5 3 times in 6 starts, so clearly speed was not the issue. He has also not been quite as competitive since the introduction of aero kits in 2015. Perhaps the change to the universal body kits in 2018 could be beneficial to Carpenter. Things started off very well for Sebastian Bourdais in 2017. He won the season opener at St. Petersburg from last place. Additionally, he maintained the points lead through 3 races, only to lose it due to being collected in a large crash at Phoenix and suffering engine failure at the Indianapolis Grand Prix. Then he had a violent crash while qualifying for the Indianapolis 500. To the surprise of many, he returned for the final 3 races of the season and finished in the top 10 twice. I do believe that Bourdais will be a contender next year. Second-year driver Spencer Pigot failed to match his best finish from last season. However, I did feel that at some races, notably St. Petersburg and Toronto, he showed speed, but failed to finish in the appropriate result due to issues beyond his reach. Next year, he will be back as a full-time driver for Ed Carpenter Racing, and I do think 2018 will be his make or break year. Going into the 2017 season, Mikhail Aleshin was thought to have a breakout year. However, he failed to finish better than 6th and was released following Mid-Ohio due to a combination of crash damage, a lack of results, and a lack of sponsorship. I personally doubt that Aleshin will ever compete in IndyCar again. In his first full season with AJ Foyt Enterprises, Connor Daly had a horrible start to the season, as his only top 10 was a 7th place at Texas, a race with only 9 finishers. However, in the final 5 races, he finished in the top 10 3 times, notably getting a 5th at Gateway. If Daly can keep up his late season form, and if Tony Kanaan can help him on ovals, assuming Daly returns with the Foyt team, I could see 2018 being a very good season for Daly. After finishing 8th in the 2016 standings, Charlie Kimball dropped to 17th place in 2017. To be fair, he did have some bad luck, the most notable example being at Texas, where he got his first pole position. Kimball led for 26 of the first 41 laps, but then suffered an oil leak. For 2018, Kimball will likely be with the new-to IndyCar Carlin Motorsport. Perhaps a change of scenery can help him. What a difference a year makes for Carlos Munoz. In 2016, he nearly won the Indianapolis 500, ultimately finishing 2nd. In 2017, he finished no better than 7th at Long Beach. Unlike teammate Connor Daly, Munoz never seemed to get a handle during the year. Additionally, there is very much question about where Munoz will be in 2018. Hopefully he can find something, and hopefully, for his sake, he can do better next year. What was intended to be J.R. Hildebrandt's first full season since 2012 was a mixed bag. He utterly struggled on road courses and street circuits, finishing no better than 11th at Long Beach, a race where he was involved in a crash on the last lap that broke his wrist and caused him to miss the following race at Barber. However, he also finished 2nd at Iowa, where he led 38 laps, and 3rd at Phoenix. These would end up being his only 2 top 10s of the season. Additionally, it has been announced that he will be replaced by Spencer Pigot next year. I do think that he can be especially competitive on ovals, and perhaps the team could realize that for next season. While 2016 Indy Lights champion Ed Jones was guaranteed to win Rookie of the Year as he was the only full-time rookie, he still had a pretty good season. For most of the first half of the season, Jones was in the top 10 in points and even finished third in the Indianapolis 500. However, his results did decline after losing Sebastian Bourdais as a teammate, perhaps with the experienced Bourdais being back as a teammate for hopefully the entire season next year. Jones can really break out. 2017 started off well for James Hinchcliffe as he won the second race of the year at Long Beach. However, he ultimately finished 13th in the standings. After 5 races, he was ranked 6th. For the remaining 12 races, he finished 20th or worse 6 times, in most cases due to issues beyond his control. I have noticed that Hinchcliffe is the type of driver who can be competitive when everything is right for him, but does not seem to be the driver who can make the best out of a bad race. Marco Andretti was all over the place in 2017. He finished in the top 10 5 times, with a best finish of 4th at Toronto. However, races that could have been good results for him turned out extremely bad, often due to bad luck that frankly was not Andretti's fault, such as suffering electrical issues at Long Beach and being collected in a first-lap crash at Phoenix. I do think that with a little luck, Andretti could surprise people. Max Chilton definitely improved between 2016 and 2017. However, there's an asterisk next to his 2 best races. At the Indianapolis 500, he led a race-high 50 laps after running an alternate pit strategy, resulting in a 4th place finish. Then at Texas, he ran an alternate strategy again that caused him to avoid the major crash and finished 8th after being involved in a late race crash. Now, I will admit that he still had to keep the car at the front of the field, and he should deserve credit for that. Next year, he will likely drive for Carlin Motorsport, and we will see if he will continue to improve with them. Tony Kanaan once again proved that he is one of the best drivers in the series on ovals, as evidenced from his 2nd place finish at Texas, which came after being 2 laps down due to a penalty from his part in the large crash. However, he seemed to struggle on road courses as he finished no better than 7th at Barber, and started no better than 10th at the same race. As a result, I think that any real chance of Kanaan ever being a champion again is gone. Next year, he will be with AJ Foyt Enterprises, and I do believe that his experience and ability on ovals can only help the team. For the 2nd year in a row, Ryan Hunter-Reay failed to win a race. However, it was not from a lack of effort, as he suffered mechanical failures at both Long Beach and the Indianapolis 500, each of which he was in contention to win. Hunter-Reay has not adapted the best to aero kits, so perhaps the universal kits coming in 2018 will improve his results. What will end up being Takuma Sato's only season with Andretti Autosport was a memorable one, as he won the Indianapolis 500 for the first time. Throughout the season, Sato proved to be routinely quick. Next year, in his return to Rahal Letterman Lanigan Racing, I believe that Sato can be just as, if not more competitive, since Graham Rahal seemed to be frankly more consistently competitive than any of the Andretti cars this past year. While Alexander Rossi did win the Indianapolis 500 last year, largely due to fuel strategy, he showed much more speed this year. He would win at Watkins Glen after qualifying on the pole position and leading the most laps. Rossi was also able to finish in the top 10 times this past year, compared to 6 in 2016. I think there are plenty of good things still to come from this driver. Graham Rahal had a slow start to the season, being ranked 15th in points following Indianapolis. However, he then swept both Detroit races and only finished outside the top 10 once during the final 10 races of the season. I would have to say that his team adding another car full-time in 2018 can only help him. Will Power actually won more races on ovals than road courses in 2017. What really hurt Power this year was his early season bad luck, which consisted of a mechanical failure at St. Petersburg, first lap contact at Long Beach, and a tire failure at Barber. To show how good Power is usually in this series, his 5th place series ranking is his worst since finishing 19th in 2009, a season where he only competed in 6 of 17 races. As long as Power has better luck next year, he can easily be a contender. Helio Castroneves has won his first race since 2014 when he won at Iowa this past season. In all, Castroneves only finished outside of the top 10 once. Additionally, he nearly won a record-tying 4th Indianapolis 500, only to be passed by Takuma Sato with 5 laps to go. This was Castroneves' final full-time season, as he will be going to IMSA in 2018. However, he's at least going to do the Indianapolis 500 next year, and I definitely think that he can easily be a contender. To put into perspective how competitive Scott Dixon is, he won the least amount of races in a single season for himself since 2005, as his only win came at Road America. Despite this, he remained in the hunt all season long, and his only non-top 10 result was a 32nd in the Indianapolis 500, where he was taken out by Jay Howard because of the performance of the Honda engine and the switch to universal kits in 2018. I think Dixon, like most years, has to be an easy favorite. Defending champion Simon Pagenaud managed to win 2 races and finish every single lap this past season. However, he came up a position short in his championship defense. At Phoenix, Pagenaud pulled off his first oval win, which, considering his performance up to that point, was a bit surprising that it took this long. This year, Pagenaud also seemed to be inconsistent in qualifying, as he had 7 races outside the top 10, although all but one of these races resulted in a top 10 finish. Pagenaud will regardless be in contention next year. In his first season with Team Penske, Joseph Newgarden not only won the championship, but a series-high 4 races, coming at the road courses at Barber and Mid, Ohio, the street circuit at Toronto, and the short oval at Gateway. It should also be noted that Newgarden had as many non-top 10 finishes as Pagenaud, Dixon, and Castroneves combined with 4, but he also had as many wins as them combined. There's no doubt that Newgarden will be competitive next year, but the question is if he can defend his championship, which I do think he has a very good shot at doing. All of these drivers took some sort of chance. Some came out successful, others did not, but you can't win them all.